I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? This is the Dream Books edition right here. Dream Books saying that these people right here are living their dream and they're writing their books. That's something I got to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so tell me about it, right? So I have an amazing author on the show today. You know, all my guests are amazing, and I'm going to be very biased about that. I'm just so very appreciative of her being here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. So tell us about yourself, girlfriend.
Hey, I'm originally from Belize. And for those of your listeners who are not familiar with Belize, it used to be called British Honduras. We were under the British system. So in Belize, I went to St. Catherine's Academy. My first job was teaching. Then I went into law enforcement because it paid $20 more per month. But when I joined, yes. When I joined, they were recruiting 6 women every 3 years. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those women. Every job I've had, I've always wanted to aim for the top. My mom always say, if you're going to do something, do it right, and don't let anything stop you. And then I had an opportunity to come to the United States 50 years ago this year.
Wow.
Yes, it was an experience, okay? It was different night and day. Oh, it was an experience. My first job was enlisting in the United States Army. I had a recruiter who saw something in me. After I took several written tests, he was impressed, and he finally said to me, some make it and some don't. I have no hesitation that you're gonna make it. And so I joined the Army. I was trained at Fort Jackson or somewhere, but my permanent party was at Fort Ord. You know, it's been a long time. So Fort Ord was where I was permanent party. And my first job was data analyst. At the time when I joined, do I have to say the year? Okay, it was 1973. Don't try to calculate the age. I'm only 18. Okay, so the Army was just automating its personnel system. And so I was trained to do that. So Fort Ord was the West Coast base, or the western part of the Army's base. And I did very well. I mean, I wanted to learn everything. When I finished my job, I used to go and help the key punch operator, or I go upstairs and see what the civilian people were doing. And I'll tell you what, though, that was my first experience where somebody would say to me, you're a foreigner. And it was okay. I was a foreigner. Yeah, I was a foreigner. And so this man, I remember him, white guy. I was the only black in the office at the time, but I didn't care. You know what, though? I didn't know I was black till I came in the Army. My recruiter asked me, he said, what race are you? And nobody ever asked me that before. So I thought about it and I said, I'm British. And he said, as long as you're in this country, you're black. I said, oh, okay. I didn't know. And so when Mr. Buttry, God rest his soul, when I would go up to say, okay, what can I learn from you today? And he would say, foreigner, don't come here. And I pull up a chair and I sat beside him. I didn't care. I just sat beside him and I said, you need to quit smoking. And he said, you need to go home. And I said, no problem. And I just sat there and watched what he did. I'm not there to make any trouble. When I was finished, I move on to the next person. So that was my first experience of where this color thing came in. But I did well. I had 2 supervisors, Sergeant Tachibana and Sergeant Dumont. They were really appreciative of my work ethics. So I would be working and I would like, oh, Sergeant D, I heard about instructors training course. How can I do that? He said, I'll take care of it. Sergeant D, I heard about the NCO Academy. How can I do that? He said, I'll take care of it. And so that's what I did. I was going to be the best I could be. And they used to tell me I was going to be the first black female general of the Army. So I said, oh, I guess that's a good thing. And I worked toward it. But during my time in the Army, I started taking courses in law enforcement, administration of justice per se. And I met a number of police officers who didn't notice I was Black, I don't think. And so they were impressed because I was always getting A's. I worked hard, and they say, hey, you want to join law enforcement? And I had no problems doing that. So I worked corrections. And then I went to, when I was in the Sheriff's Academy, this was in the 70s, and departments were recruiting for affirmative action. Remember back in those days, probably before your time, but departments came a calling for affirmative action. And I used to say, nope, I'm not joining because of affirmative action. If you're gonna hire me, you're gonna hire me because I'm qualified for the job. The city I chose based on the suggestion from the director of the training course. Oh, we were gone? Oops. Via, you froze. I knew something was wrong when I was talking and she wasn't responding.
She froze on me right there. And I don't know why she froze on me.
Yeah, I'm like,
But I always have a backup, darling. Always got a backup. So this is the backup. Give me 1 second to unfreeze this woman. Oh my gosh, she just like stopped. But I got you. So don't go anywhere. So
okay.
You're good.
Okay.
Okay. You're good. I'm going to go ahead and close this out over here because Zoom just stopped working for me.
Yeah, you froze and I'm talking and I go, but she's not responding.
So let me go ahead and restart it here. And now you can see why I said this is pre-recorded. Okay. Got it. Reclaim post. All right. That means get out of here. Get out. Let's put, are you still there? You good?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. So we're still recording.
Okay.
That's how I do everything.
So where do I pick up from? Where?
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me stop this whole thing here. Because she's just going to keep trying to get into the system. It's going to be bing, 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 bing. So, okay. Oh my goodness. All right. All right. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I was listening the entire time until I had to kind of jump off and then you stopped talking. So you were saying how that was the first experience that you ever had, being, a foreigner. That is just ridiculous because, I didn't even know colors existed until I went overseas. I didn't had no idea because,
Yeah.
we grew up in a mixed family. I mean, everybody's a different color, different hair, different this, different that, eye color, everything is different. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you're in a variety of a different element and then you come out of your element. That's when you find out that you're different and that people don't like you because you were born a certain color. And to me, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but you know what? We talk about this all the time, even when I was teaching. This color thing, this racial thing, this injustice thing, that's what caused me to write my first book. Because I had a story to tell. And I wanted people, and I'm going to say this, my sister said, don't say it, but when I first came to this country, I heard a lot. I listened to the news a lot because I grew up listening to the news. And one of the things I heard was Black people were black, dumb, stupid, and lazy. And I go, oh, yeah, I heard this in LA. I was in LA. This is 1973. And I'm like, really? Well, when I get my job here, I'm going to show them that that's not true. So that was my goal. I was going to prove them wrong. Yes. When I was in basic training, here's where it started though. This girl said to me, she was sick. We got all those shots. If you're in the military, people who are listening know what I'm talking about. You line up and somebody's zapping you on one hand and they're zapping you on the other. Well, supposedly she was sick for about 9 days. Well, where I came from, when someone is sick, you help them. So I would go to the mess hall every morning and bring her back breakfast, go do my job, bring her lunch, bring her dinner. And when she got well, the first thing she said to me, Gloria, don't you feel inferior being the only Black girl in this company? It caught me off guard. I wasn't sure how I was supposed to respond. My only answer was no. Whatever you white girls can do, I could do better. I didn't know what else to say, right? And then I'm like, these people, I've been nice to her. What is wrong with her?
Exactly.
And then real quick, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Army because I covered it in my first book, but we had to clean classrooms, right? So there were 6 of us, and 3 and 3 to one classroom, 3 to the next. But they said, no, let's all 6 do one classroom first. So we did. And because when I was a police officer in Belize, I saw how the guys shine the floor with this big, huge vacuum. You burn the wax, you put it on the floor. I did. So I was doing that. They never saw that before. So I said, I'll do that. And then I noticed they weren't working. Well, I was more mature than they were, even though I was only 21 at the time. And I'm like, guys, we need to hurry up and clean. We have another building to do. Anyway, I finished my job and I did the windows. And when we got done, I saw they were talking. And then I said, come on, the classroom is over there. And they said, nope, you're going to do that by yourself. And they took off and went to the barracks. Well, at 10 o'clock that night, the drill sergeant came in and she was blessing us. What made me upset was when she talked about my mother. She said, and your mothers don't know how to train you. I jump off the top bunk and I say, hold it. I didn't know I couldn't do that. And I just said, this is what happened. I said, my mother trained me and da-da-da. And I just went up, then I jumped right back on my bed. It was quiet. And then the next night, the captain called me for CQ, charge of quarters duties. She said, I heard what happened last night. I said, Captain, she said, I don't want to hear it. She said, you don't do that in the Army. You don't. I said, okay. And I said to myself, the next fool who tries that, you'll see. So anyway, so I went in, did my time, got promoted, made E5 in 2.5 years. That's equivalent to a sergeant. I was doing training employees on how to do this automated system, training their company commanders once a month, doing the employees 4 days a week. And then, like I said, the law enforcement people were impressed with me. I said, join law enforcement. So when I was in the Sheriff's Academy, all these departments in Northern California came a-calling. And I said to them, don't hire me if you're looking for somebody for affirmative action. Hire me because I'm qualified for the job.
Hello.
And I asked the director of the training school, I said, which department would you choose? No, I was with the Sheriff's Department working corrections. They didn't have any female on patrol. So they were hiring females for patrol, and I thought I would apply. Well, they hired 2 women and they didn't move me from corrections to patrol. But I scored higher than they did in training in the academy. So these departments came a-calling, and my director said, I will choose Foster City. He said, I know you'll have the support, et cetera, et cetera. I was the first female, I was Black, and I was bilingual. I spoke Spanish. So they got 3 for 1, right? I tell people they got 3 sandwiches for the price of 1. But anyway, but it was an experience that if I had to do it over again, I would not choose Foster City. It was incorporated in as a city, I believe, in 74 or 71, 74. I was there in 77. The discrimination, the racism that I encountered started with the chief from the top, okay? And my sister said not to say this, but you could edit it out later. The guys they were watching football. I was working weekends. I knew nothing about football. So I was on patrol. I stopped this vehicle where the registration tags expired 6 months ago. All right, I stopped the vehicle. This white lady jumped out from the passenger side. The female girl was driving, and she said, nigger, you can't stop me. And I said, I stop you, ma'am, because your registration expired 6 months ago. The dispatcher ran the license plate when I called it in, and it came back to the chief of police. It was the beginning of the end for me. He told the lieutenant he better get, and at that time I didn't know whites and Jews were different races. The lieutenant was Jewish, and he told him he better get rid of me or else he'll get rid of him. So the lieutenant tried, but I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just doing my job. I don't have any reason to leave. Why should I leave? I did nothing wrong. But the men were afraid of the chief, so nobody would cover me. So I made arrest by myself, felony arrest, drunk driving arrest. I had no cover. I go to disputes with them. When I go and I'm backing them up, either they call me off the call or they come up with a different story that happened that never happened. And I said, they really wanted me up, but I'm showing them I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. And then the sergeant called me from graveyard one morning, and he gave me my evaluation, and he told the truth, everything I did, my work, my reports and everything. I said, no problem, I'll sign it. And he said, you can't sign it. Why not? He said, because the chief selected me to write your evaluation. I was supposed to write your evaluation and give it to him. I did. He gave it back to me, and he said, you have 2 days to make it bad. So I want you to see, yes, this is what went on. Nobody, people were afraid of him because one of the officers told me, nobody ever fought the chief and won. So you better be very careful. So yeah, so I decided to leave. I came back to Southern California because this is where I was recruited from. I applied for jobs in law enforcement. Again, same thing, everybody was impressed. I was on Inglewood PD, I had a 96%, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, I had 106%. I got credit for being a veteran. And I got a letter from Sergeant Steele, Inglewood PD, and he said, "Dear Gloria Swift, you've been disqualified from any further consideration with the Inglewood Police Department." I called him up and I said, "Why?" He said, "I don't have to tell you anything." I got a call from his Deputy O'Neill at the Sheriff's Department. "Is this Gloria Swift?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You're a liar." I said, "Who is this? Who are you?" And he said, "You didn't tell us that you were fired from the Foster City Police Department because you were a member of the Black Panther Party." I said, "Sir, I don't know anything about that." I said, "That's not true." I said, "I was never." And then I started to tell him everything I went through. And he said, "You're a liar. Why didn't you tell us about this before?" And I said, "How could I tell you? I didn't know they were going to lie." So then I called the surgeon who refused to change the evaluation. And I said, "Sarge, you need to call the Sheriff's Department because this is what happened." And he said to me, he said, "After you left, the chief fired me for insubordination because I refused to change your evaluation. Law enforcement was my life." That was it. I said, "I'm gonna kill that bastard." I called my mom, who was a Christian. She was here working for an attorney. I said, "Mom, this is what happened. I'm gonna kill him." And she said, "Go read your Bible and leave it to God." I said, "But Mom, he lied," and nobody stood up. You know what they did? They went and
fired him too?
I see, I resigned. I'm like, I'm not putting up with this anymore. So I told all my story in my first book. But after I left, then these same officers who would never cover me went and told citizens in the community whose husbands were in law enforcement that I should have sued the chief and they would have stood up and be a witness. And I told them to tell them where they can go. I said they wouldn't, but they would not. Yeah, so that's what happened. And I felt so bad. I mean, I said, I cost somebody his job for standing up for what's right. I never got over it because I always wonder whatever happened to him, you know, what happened? He had a young family and that always bothered me. My mother said, "Pray and ask God to help you, but God will take care of that. You don't have to worry." So anyways, I came back down here and I got into banking. Same thing, I worked my funny off and they were giving me, they used to send me to branches that failed their audits to clean up, but I never got promoted, never. And I'm like, wow, what do I need to do, you know? So anyway, after my bank was taken over by a competitor, I went back into teaching. I love teaching. And I said, before I get in the classroom, because of all the experiences I've had, I'm going to get every teaching credential, every degree I can, because I want to be able to teach every student that walked in my classroom. And maybe I'll reach the top, who knows? So I got into teaching, taught over 20 plus years, did elementary, middle and high school, principal, charter K-8, charter 912, but I love teaching, so I retired as a teacher. And then same thing, even all the credentials and degrees I had, they didn't care. We had a new principal. She used to harass me every 6 weeks because I wasn't giving enough A's and B's. She used to call me and yell at me and want to know, why don't I sit beside the kids? I said, I don't sit beside elementary kids. I'm not sitting beside kids in high school. I said, when I get the kids, they're high on drugs. They want to sleep. I don't let them sleep. And so they don't do any work. That's why they're failing. Oh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. She would yell at me. And it got to the point where, lady, I would go to work and I was thinking, either I will kill her or kill myself. I used to sit in the parking lot and cry every morning. But when that gate opened, when I could get in my room at 6 o'clock, I was a teacher. I was a professional. I knew my job. I know it wasn't my fault. So I've been through a lot. So I say that to say, despite everything I've been through, God has been there for me. I didn't sue anybody. I didn't file a complaint against anybody. I didn't protest. I didn't picket. And I look back and I said, if I had started doing something way back when, would things have been different for people who came after me? I don't know. I don't know, but you know, it was hard, but I had my family and my mom, who is such a Christian lady. I wrote a book about her too, because she was everything she said, leave to God, you know, and I was getting tired of leaving them to God because I kept suffering. What's taking God so long? You know, you got to help me here. But, you know, he had other plans. And so that's Gloria's life in a nutshell. That's how I got started.
Wow.
And that's why I began to write. I began to write because I had a story to tell about my experiences. And I started writing and I've never stopped.
That is amazing. I absolutely love that you wrote about this, because people need to know, you know, there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, this doesn't happen anymore, or this is all gone, or that's a figment of your imagination. No,
Exactly.
when I'm standing on the stage and I hear the N-word being shot out at me in the middle of a crowd to the stage, that's not a figment of my imagination.
No, no.
That's real, you
Yeah.
know? And so, yeah, this stuff still happens. I mean, in some instances, you can get further along. You get promoted. You have people who actually see you for your talent and not your color. And that goes along, with Hispanics and Blacks and Jews and whites, and wherever you live in the world, there's going to be some kind of a stigmatism against some other color. It doesn't always have to be Black. It could be Hispanic. I mean, the Mexicans can hate the Cubans. I mean, it's you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly.
It's just difference. And like you did, you stayed and you stuck it out. But you wrote it down. Did you have a good time remembering all of this? Was this something that was coming back to you as you wrote it?
As I wrote it, it kept coming back and I was crying through it. And I said, did I do this? Did I put up with this crap? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And I kept a journal, during the time I wanted to write things down. So even though half the stuff wasn't in the journal, I said, I remember that, I remember when this officer said to me that the chief was told to get rid of one of the guys he had here because he was doing things he shouldn't. And the chief said, I have a nigger woman I wanted to get rid of. And I'm like, what? But I remember, you remember those things and you're like, how could human beings do this? And believe it or not, he was Catholic and I was Catholic. I left the Catholic religion because of that. I'm saying this man is a devil. I can't be in the same faith as this person. But it really took a toll on me. People don't understand that till I wrote about it. And they said, yeah, it took a toll on me. And see, why I resigned here is this. I arrested a felon without backup one Sunday morning on a warrant. And when I came back from dropping him off at the jail, the dispatcher said, come in code 2. I went in code 3 and she gave me the rap sheet. And I worked the rest of the day and I had it in my head, okay, I saw a police officer being in the state pen. I could just barely make it to my house door. I collapsed. And it dawned on me that I need to leave that department because they were going to set me up. Nobody covered me. They were going to set me up and then they were going to generate these lies. And because I had told nobody what was going on, nobody would have stepped forward and said, no, that's not true. And so, that's why those things would come back. And I said, I better write them down. I better write them down. And that's how that one went.
Wow. Do you have a favorite part of the book or any of your books that you have written?
Well, first, let's get back to, if you don't mind, let's talk about the Christmas book, because I've been talking about that first book.
Yeah, you have been, but this is about Chris. Oh my gosh.
That was about
you got me all in this. You just pulled me through. You wasn't doing all that.
That was the first one. That was not the Christmas book. All right,
let's go to the Christmas book, please.
Okay.
But you got me on the first one. Wait, before we continue, what's the name of the first book?
Okay. It's under a different title now. It's been rewritten to update it, and it's called The True Story of an Illegal Immigrant Who Became a Citizen of the United States.
Okay. All right. So definitely, you guys, if you're interested in learning more about what happened to her and how she, overcame, then you need to go ahead and get that book. Let's go to the actual book that we're supposed to be talking about.
The Christmas book.
Yes,
okay.
please.
All right. I have never intended to write a book about Christmas. I thought it was going to be so boring because there's so many Christmas books. But then one day I was watching TV and the commercials, and this kid was upset. He kicked the toy he got because that's not what he wanted. And I'm saying, what? I never had toys when I was growing up. So I decided, why not write about what Christmas was like when I was growing up in whatever decade, I don't remember right now, selective memory. So, so I decided, yeah, let me write and tell a story, because not only would it be appropriate for parents to read with their kids, teachers can use it in the classrooms and do some compare and comparison. They can use reciprocal teaching methods. And the kids can learn something. Anytime I write a book, I want people to learn something. I want them to walk away saying, I have experienced that. No, that really happened. Really? I know someone who experienced that. How can we learn from this? So every book I write, there's a message. So in this Christmas book, I said, you know what? The old-fashioned days were the best. So let me go back. And that's when I started writing and drafting. It took me over 6 years to write the book. Why? Because I wanted to get it right. And then I have to check with my mom. Mom, do you remember we did this? Do you remember we did that? And she would say yes, and so on. And then I'm like, oh, my grandson. He always wanted to know about Christmas when I was a little girl. So I said, hey, I try to do my stories differently. So I said, why not do a question and answer session? So he asked questions. And so that's how I told the story. And I thought that would get students involved, because they can read with their teachers or read with their parents. And as we go along, he asked questions. He was very smart. He asked questions about words he didn't understand. And so it helps to clarify. And then with the pictures, I put in so many pictures in the book, because back in those days, things were different. Some of the things don't even exist. I can't find Bradley's bottling work to get the lemonade we used to get, or the nutmeg. You know how I have to drive around to stores to find the nutmeg you have to grate? Who grates nutmegs these days?
Nobody. It's in a bottle and it has holes in it, and you just shake it.
That's right. And cinnamon sticks. My mom used to give me the hammer to beat the cinnamon sticks.
Yeah.
So we participated as kids. I grew up in rural Belize, which was different from city Belize. Most of what we ate, we grew and harvested on the farm. We raised our domestic products, animals, I should say, the chickens, the turkeys, etc. And so we were mostly self-sufficient. So we grew up making our own cooking oil. We did a lot less than when my mom was growing up. That's why I had to write a book telling her story, because she had it more, harder than we did. But we worked. And so we enjoyed being in the kitchen helping. Even as little girls, she would give us different tasks to do. And I enjoyed doing that. It made me feel important. I can help, And so we all participated in making Christmas. We did it for a couple of days before the main event, which was Christmas Day. And everything was just like you're thinking, it's only for one day. All that hard work, baking from scratch, cleaning the yard. It was just, back then, if I could do it again, except the work, I would like to relive it, just so that the young people of today can see what Christmas was all about. It has gotten so commercialized that if you don't get the kids toys, they're gonna die. It's crazy. And I want kids to know that there's more to Christmas than having toys. You can live, you can have a good time. You help cook. Hey, Christmas morning before we ate, we had to go around the village to several families and share. Take our food that mother has prepared. Half of what she made will go to the villagers. And then when we come back home by noontime, it was time to give God the glory, and then we ate. Wow. And then after we ate, sometimes if we're lucky, we get to go to church, because the priest would come up once a month. So depending on what day, sometimes mother has her own service there. You're singing, you're reading the Bible. Yes, there was no break from her. And so we did that, Christmas Day, and then it's done. And then the fun part in the evening was watching selective elder people from the community show up at your house, march right up the stairs, started dancing and singing about Christmas. Mother fed them, and they were on their way to the next house. So it was fun time, It was, what is the true meaning of Christmas? And that's why I wrote the book, because I think we have lost it.
Yeah,
We
we
can
do.
still do our modern day things, but we need to get back to what it is, because when I hear people say, oh, I'm broke after Christmas, that's not my problem. I'm not helping you. They're broke after Christmas. Or the kids, oh, my kid is upset I didn't have the money to buy this toy. What? I had two girls and they never asked for anything. So if you don't have it, anyway, so something is wrong there. So I want people to read this book and understand, you know what? It's going to be hard, but maybe we can do something like this, maybe we can share. I know we have that here, feed the homeless and all this. My girls used to go to LA at the mission, but you could do it in your community. We had elderly people who had no one, so they were the first ones who got the big meals. The other people got a little dessert with a bottle of the lemonade, or the cake or the tart. Everything was homemade, so we shared. And that's what it's all about, is sharing. And I wanted to get that message across.
Wow. Wow. And I can see the passion that you have for teaching in both books. I mean, in the first one that we were talking about, and then now the Christmas book. I mean, literally speaking, what kind of a message do you have for the people that are listening today? A lot of people are using procrastination and all kinds of different things to just kind of be their buddy, pow, pow. What do you tell people?
All my books, like I said, have a story and a message. So one, I want people to remember something, whether you believe in God or not, but I'm going to say this. God created all of us, and each of us has something to share. And we need to come and work together for this common goal. What is it? We can't make everybody happy, but we can try. We will, like Mother always says, we will have to give account of our life. We will have to answer questions. We will have to stand in front of the man. So while we are here on earth, why don't we strive to do the right things? When I teach my children and my students, I tell them, I want you to walk out of here being able to share, treat each other with respect. We can argue, we can disagree, we can do this, but we do it respectfully, respect for your elders. I mean, we have lost sight of that. So you will see all that come across in the books, being respectful and being, my sister said, don't use the word tolerant, but it's hard to get along with everybody because we are all different, but we don't need to crucify the people we don't get along with. All right, we do the best we can and we move on. Raise our kids the right way. So as my mother would always say, you will not be disgraced. I made 2 trips to go to Foster City to take care of the chief. And I didn't make it because in my head, as I was driving the 101, my parents were just arguing. Well, it's your fault. No, it's not my fault. I raised them right. No, you did. If and the people in the village who knew me would say, see, the parents raised them a certain way. No, they're disgracing the parents. So all that fight was going on in my head. I couldn't continue. So what are we not doing as parents today that our kids are committing crimes? And what are we not doing? I felt guilty. Every time I talk about it, I felt guilty because my mom was always, no, go read your Bible. Really, but go read your Bible. And so I want people to know it's difficult out there. I understand that. We're getting students in our classrooms who are coming from different countries, different education levels, and it's really, really hard. Like I said, I had credentials in special ed, different levels. I have a GET certificate. I have multiple subjects. I had everything. And yes, it was challenging for me. I got paid 7.5 hours a day. I was putting in 10 and 15 hours a day because I had to prepare. When I got my 9th grade English students, only 3 were performing at the 9th grade level. I had kids in that group who didn't even know the letters of the alphabet, couldn't function at 1st grade level. I had to teach the curriculum. So what do? I had to modify the assessments for them. I had to retype the stories that they can read at their level. It's a lot of work, and teachers don't have the time, and I don't expect them to put in 10 hours a day. I did because that was, I wanted the kids to be successful. Failure was not an option in my life, and I didn't want it in my students' lives. So when I did this Christmas book, getting back to the Christmas book, again, it has messages in there for the parents, for the teachers. And I think if we read it the right way and we discuss it the right way, we could change a little, one child at a time, one parent at a time, one teacher at a time.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I really do. This has been amazing. Your stories are just like animated. Okay. I'm so in love with it. Thank you so much for joining me. I mean, I got the idea of the first book and the second book, and I literally, I mean, I think that these books are amazing. I think that your life was amazing. And coming from a different country over to the United States and being treated like we are all being treated. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just gonna say that, just,
Yeah.
that's just, it's terrible. It's terrible. And I'm so sorry that you went through this, you're going through this, and it's still kind of out there today. It's just kind of like it's a little bit far and few and in between, but it's still there. It
You know,
definitely
I think sometimes we're looking at it like I can change people. And when I say
no,
they're sending officers to workshops, they're doing, no, you can't do that because I work with white police officers. You see the difference in them. You see the ones who are more human. So it's not the training. You're training them and it's still happening. It has to come from inside. And if
yes.
it's not inside of me, you're wasting your time. I've written several books. I mean, you could find them on Amazon. Just type in my name. They'll all pop up. The education book about farming. I had my sheep, one of my favorite sheep, had to tell her story. So I did it from her point of view. I try to do it differently so kids will be hooked. So you're not reading the same thing, this narrative. No, have the sheep tell the story. So, so you can find my books on Amazon. And I really appreciate you giving me the time. So anytime you're ready, I am ready. I will
I
be
am
happy to
too.
do this. Yeah, I'll be
We
happy
gotta
to
have
do
you
this.
back.
Yeah,
We
okay,
definitely gotta
sure.
have you back, Miss Swift. It's Gloria Swift today, and you can get her books on Amazon. We're gonna put the link in the description box below for the Christmas book, but I'm sure you can just follow the trail. Just follow the trail. You can find all the other books there as well. Miss Swift, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. And don't forget to comment below if you have any questions for Miss Swift, because she's going to be watching the comments below. Thank you guys again so much. And until next time, guys, bye.
Bye-bye.